Okay, so this past Wednesday, we got our first taste of the new Wednesday Night Wars. I don't know if you remember. Well, yeah, of course you remember. Back in the 90s. This is like maybe around 95, 96, right?
Yeah, that was a good year.
We get the Monday Night Wars between WCW World Championship Wrestling as well as WWF at that time, Worldwide
Wrestling Federation.
No, that's like three W's. There's too
I think it was
Wrestling.
WWF sounded better, but I think it was Worldwide Wrestling Federation.
No, I know
Worldwide
it was that once upon a time.
Worldwide is one word,
but
right?
then they got. Is that one word?
Yeah, Worldwide is one word.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, we've wasted enough time on that uselessness.
No, this is a teaching moment.
How?
Now all of our listeners know Worldwide.
Okay,
it's one word.
Besides my whole point altogether. But we got the first taste of the Monday Night Wars, which was, we had Monday Night Nitro, and then we had, which was WCW. Then we had Monday Night Raw, which is WWF. And it inspired an entire generation. You had so much great content coming out of these Monday Night Wars. I mean, you got Stone Cold came out of the Monday Night Wars. You had The Rock who came out of the Monday Night Wars.
Triple H, Goldberg,
DX,
Kane.
NWO, all these fucking factions and groups and athletes or not athletes, but
Booker T.
Booker T came out of that. Although he came out of the back end of that. Although Harlem Heat was one of the top tag teams of the 90s, definitely by far. But him as a solo act came sort of thereafter. But anyways, you have what was the golden age, if you will, of wrestling, where we got everything. You tune in Monday night 8:00 to what the fuck was going on Nitro. You see that pop off. Oh shit, they're on a commercial break. What's Raw doing right now? Flip over to Raw, see what craziness is happening over there. It was fucking fantastic. So many great fucking moments. You have DX who they drive the little tank, the mini tank to the front of WCW where they were having the show, and knocking on the door, let us in, and they taped it all and they showed it, and you had that fucking craziness. You had Hulk Hogan making his turn to being a villain now.
Who was the group that'd be like, like
DX?
Was that DX?
Well, it was DX, but I think NWO sort of made it popular, and DX sort of like kind of latched onto it.
Wasn't it like Triple H, and there was like Mysterio, and
that was at first it was NWO, which had this Hogan, Nash, Hall,
Kevin Nash.
Guys. Yeah,
he was a bad man.
And then DX sort of took it on, which was Triple H, X-Pac, it was Shawn Michaels as well, but after he left, it was Triple H, X-Pac, Billy Gunn, Road Dogg, China. Anyways, this past Wednesday night, we got our first glimpse at now what is the Wednesday Night Wars. So a little while back in 2018, Cody Rhodes, who used to be, of course, he used to be with the WWE, and they wanted him to do a lot of gimmicks that he didn't want to fucking do. That he thought were cartoonish and just silly. They were booking him wrong, along those lines, and really silly matches. So he decides, fuck it, I'm just going to leave. Right now, WWE has established itself after it swallowed WCW hold as a result of the sort of the ending of the Monday Night Wars. You have WWE, who's like, they're it. There's really no other game in town. You have other smaller sort of things like a Ring of Honor, and just smaller other productions, but none to the degree of WWE. Cody Rhodes is like, man, fuck this shit, I'm out. I know they're the biggest game in town, but let me go do some other shit. So he teams up with some other people, and they produce, I believe it's called All Out. And they had this show that they did at the end of 2018 that everybody was blown away out. They sold out this venue, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, this is incredible! This is actually rivaling, WWE in a real way." Sure, you had TNA, but nobody fucking watched TNA. It was Jeff Jarrett's sort of project, and nobody cares about TNA. But this is the first one everybody's like kind of excited about. And so earlier this year, 2019, I believe the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, his name's Shamir Khan or something like that. And I might be getting his first name wrong, but so I believe they just go to him and they're like, all right, we got a little bit of buzz here. And so with him being the major funder for the project, they decide to do this All Elite Wrestling, AEW. And from that, they produce this show that's now showing on Wednesday nights called Dynamite. And that just happens to be showing on the same night as NXT, which is NXT is WWE's sort of like junior varsity team. It's sort of the breeding ground for a lot of their wrestlers that get called up to but
come
NXT,
up to the big leagues.
exactly,
but they start out at NXT.
They start out at NXT, but NXT sort of taken on a life of its own where everybody's going crazy over because it's smaller, more personal than the Raw or SmackDown shows. It really goes back to sort of what it was back in the 80s, back in the 90s, which is like this more personal feel to it. And a lot of people identify with a lot of these wrestlers on here, and it's just like anything else. It's like talking about indie films versus like big blockbusters, right? Those indie films, they might have a smaller fan base, but a very passionate fan base. You know?
And in these smaller like markets like NXT, right, the wrestlers get to really control their own narrative a little bit more, and like tell
and
their
that's something
story.
that's different. Well, NXT's maybe a little more controlled than that because I think it's Triple H's since he's obviously one of the executives at the WWE. It's sort of his project, but what is kind of controlled by the wrestlers themselves is AEW, because it's basically created by the wrestlers, where they're sort of running the show, and that's true to some degree with all with wrestling as a whole. A lot of the bookers,
I think even with AEW, said that Chris Jericho, who's I believe still active wrestler, is a part of like the board of executives,
exactly,
who is like really leading the charge for this, but is still an active wrestler, someone who has a long successful history. I think Jim Ross is also one of the consultants here. So people who know the business, who know what they're doing, who know how to put on a good show, are leading this. And I think they are smart enough to know that you got to let the talent lead the way and then build storylines around it. Whereas sometimes it could be like, okay, well, now we're going to let the story lead the character.
Yeah, we're going to bring in a bunch of writers and they're going to try to, I remember one kind of famous one was Vince Russo, who he worked for WWE or then WWF and then worked for WCW, and he kind of ran WCW into the ground, and he was supposed to be like this like wonder child writer because of what he was able to do in WWE.
Saying somebody ran something into the ground is like one of the
but
most
he kind of did do
disrespectful things you can say.
He did crazy things, like I think and again, I don't know all the stories or like if I'm even getting this right, but I remember around the era that he was there, he kind of put himself into a lot of the storylines, and then he had like just like David Arquette like was winning championships and like shit like
I remember
that.
That was a weird time.
What the fuck is going on? Yeah,
those are dark days.
Very dark days. Well, that's why thereafter, WWE is like, we'll just go ahead and take all this shit.
No, but hey, that might be one of the. That there's some insults, right, where it's like, fuck you, you're a bitch, right? And it's like, okay, but then they're the more I'm not gonna say articulate insults, but like those deeply rooted in hate and failure insults that but that are said very passively, like oh, you kind of ran it into the ground, right? That means so much more than what they're really saying is you are a piece of shit. You fucked all of this up. You screwed over everybody.
But he kind of did.
You ran it into the ground.
He kind of did. Like that's like a kind of like a well-known fact that so like I me, I'm very conservative when it comes to like trying to throw out insults. Or I wouldn't say that unless it's very
again, like I said, that's one of those insults that has so much more meaning.
Yeah. Well, so anyways, so I just wanted to highlight it that now we're going to get the Wednesday Night Wars, and I just want to see how all this plays out. Will AEW be able to make their programming? I don't know. Were you fucking drooling?
Yeah, I heard
That's how excited I am about this. Is that I'm drooling.
Spit drop down your lip. Just Jesus Christ.
I was hoping no one would notice.
No, I was like, yo, what was that? You nasty stuff.
It's because I wanted to talk at the same time that I needed to take a breath, so it came out as like a drool kind of situation. But so anyways, so
I was gonna make a joke that would be very even I knew that this particular joke might not be the one I say. Yeah,
fair enough.
I'm not gonna float that joke. Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta know when to hold them.
And I have, if you've been listening to the show, obviously I have no fucking filter.
Yeah,
but this joke
very apparent. It was extreme.
I know to hold this one back.
Fair enough. So yeah, I'm just really excited to see sort of the new, again, Wednesday Night Wars, to see how all of it plays out. Will AEW be able to make their programming to be on par? And honestly, in ratings, they killed NXT. Now, you could argue because one was premiering while the other one was on like the second or third week and it's showing. But still, this proof is in the pudding, right? Like their numbers aren't that bad. And I think it was like, so they're on TNT. AEW
Bill Cosby's pudding? I don't know if you can say that anymore.
It was a terrible joke. That was terrible.
That was
objectively, that was bad.
No, it was a bad joke. So I thought of it like, it was like 4 seconds after you said it. And I was like, oh, fuck, I should have timed this up better. But I wanted to say it anyway. Delivery was terrible.
Bad all around.
See, I'll give you that one. My other joke, I'm not going to say that one.
But I think it had the best premiere of a show on TNT in like something like
didn't they say like the past like several years,
and then which is incredible, right? Except for it's TNT, so I mean, who's watching
but like
TNT?
You would think, a TV show like an action show or a drama show or, one of their series.
That's not like an event show, right? Like, a series is one thing, but this is like an event, and this has wrestling fans truly excited.
Yeah, what I will say about this is, major events like this will draw those high ratings, right? Those initial high viewers,
and then it might taper
they'll
off
start to teeter off a little bit. I don't know. I think this has some legs, right? Has some momentum.
It just might, man. If they're able to come up with some really solid programming, but also one thing that I've personally, and we could wrap this up, but one thing that I've been kind of disappointed with WWE is that they've gotten really away from just letting the wrestling sort of speak for itself. They've gotten into, I think, not saying that they haven't had good matches and all that stuff. They have. And in fact, when you talk about like the women's division, oh my God, like the things that they're doing is actually more incredible than what they're doing in the men's division right now. But I feel like sometimes they get too much into the storylines, and it's just like, just let the fucking wrestling speak for itself. Anyways, and I'm not a huge wrestling fan, not like I used to be.
Yeah, I mean, when you put this story on the card, I didn't give a fuck about it.
Yeah.
I read the story and I was like, I still don't care. But I kept like thinking about it over the past day or two, and it has been a while. I used to love wrestling, right? And there was a point in time where I stopped loving it because, to your point, it became too curated, right? Yeah. You could tell that the writers were leading, and then who the characters really were, who the wrestlers really were, took a back seat to, hey, we're just going to write these stories.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity for wrestling to come back a little bit. And again, you let the characters lead the way, and you build stories around that.
Yeah.
So I like this.
Yeah. So check it out Wednesday nights, AEW and NXT. All right. So